proudest day, and the proudest time in the seat of a rally car, because that day and that hour and those minutes, I got the bit between my teeth. You know, I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donald says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett. That's all we said. I can still picture that run. That was just the best run ever.
A very special episode of Crunching Gears, the Rally podcast. We're going to do a Safari Classic special, and who better to speak to than the COC for the event, Andy Gilmore, and then two guys that finished a fantastic 5th overall, Keith McIvor and Davy Burns in their lovely Mark II Escort. Like, the Safari Classic has become one of those absolutely last really classic rallies. It's just a test of man and machine right to the very limits. And you know, we've seen that the 2025 event was one of the best, there's no doubt about it. And to have one of our own Keith or Andy Gilmore as the COC just makes you immensely proud. And we had a lot of competitors over from the island here competing as well too, and they all done us very proud. But in particular, Keith and Davy taking a fine 5th overall in their Mark II. First time ever to even do an event like this here. So, you know, who knows if they'd ever tried to do it again or where they'll go to next. But we'll discuss all that throughout the podcast. The two guys actually wanted to pay a very special tribute to Conor Murphy, Derek Riley, Ryan McIvor, Keith's son, and Gareth Badger as well, who were out there helping them as well too. And those four guys have been the stalwarts of their service crew for they said God only knows how many years. So, you know, special event with special people. That's what we love, telling those kind of stories, you know. So I really hope you enjoy this story as much as we did recording it. So let's hear from the guys, and the first one you're going to hear from is Andy.
Long story, Kevin. Well, not that long a story. Back in 2024, not long after Rally Caradigion, I got a phone call and I was asked would I speak to a guy called Joey Gosh and his son Jeet. Joey owns the rally. Basically, he owns the business that owns the rally. He's the chairman of the event and all that. And I was told that they needed a clerk of the course and asked if I would be interested in talking to them at least. And I did. And what was immediately obvious was their passion for rallying, not just the classic, but their passion for rallying. And I thought, wow, a 9-day rally and all this. I just thought, I don't know. And I spoke to a few people. One of the people I spoke to who had done the rally just previous was John Coyne. Him and Josh did the rally, I think, in 2023. Asked him loads of questions and about how it ran and how it worked and all that, because I'd heard very little about the event before that. And John just said, Andy, if you have the opportunity and you can make it work for you, just go and do it, because he just said you'll never regret it. And I haven't. I went and did it. I haven't regretted it for a second and all that sort of stuff. So that's how I got involved. Basically, a phone call after Rally Caradigion and asked would I be interested, and it just grew from there. So yeah.
And like, from the initial phone call to you were feet on the ground, was there much of a gap then, really?
No, that was we got it finalised around November 24. I came on board properly as the clerk. And my first visit to Kenya was in February then. And I don't know how many times I've been in Kenya since. But it's actually strange. Even though it was February 25, it feels like a whole lot longer. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, but I've been back and forward quite a few times. Every journey to Kenya is an adventure. So yeah. So no, yeah, it was pretty quick. But it's such a big event. You need to be tuned in, and you need to be getting at it and getting on with it. So yeah.
Andy, is it a bit daunting, you know, taking on that role on an event so far away from home?
It was, Connor, but kind of being involved with Rally Caradigion, I'm obviously based in Ireland, in Northern Ireland. It's in Wales, and virtually everything we do is online. So, and I think a lot of this was driven during the COVID era. So a lot of the calls, the important stuff happens in online meetings. You can be in online meetings every night of the week, with different parts of the rally. So it was the most daunting part was not knowing the people and not knowing the teams on the ground and all of that. And in Rally Ceredigion, I've been involved with it 5 or 6 years, and I know all the people on the ground, and there's the trust there that they're going to deliver. The most daunting part for me was, will it actually happen? It's all right talking about and making all these plans, but will it actually happen on the event? And thankfully it did. To be fair to the teams on the ground, they were fantastic. So yeah, that was the daunting part, the not knowing. So yeah.
And Keith, from your point of view, like, where did the idea ever come about to go out to want to do something like the East African Safari Classic?
Well, I think Kevin, I've done bits of rally and all, for many a year, and I, as probably somebody that followed rallying from a young age, you watched back in the day, you watched rallies all over the world, and you thought, it wasn't always just about the cars; it was about where they were at in the world, and they were the adventure and one thing or another. I suppose I always aspired maybe someday if I could try and do something like this. And we've done the Roger Albert Clark 3 times, and somebody says, rather than standing out in the middle of a wet English forest in November, what about Kenya and the sun shining on you? So the idea sounded good, but the logistics may be a wee bit different. But so look, I thought, and truthfully, at a big birthday last year, I was 40 again, and I thought I better do it now. If I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So that's really and truthfully, just a few things fell into place. Because I really didn't have an idea. I always aspired, I wanted to do it before, and just things sort of happened, and it fell in with the car, and it just happened. Everything happened to click. And we knew guys in England, the Dansport guys. So again, they had done it maybe 10 times. So there was just certain things that fell into place. So the opportunity was there, and we took that opportunity and bit the bullet and said, right, we're going, and committed to it, So.
And like a Mark II Escort isn't the most obvious choice. Yes, we know in historic rallying here in Ireland and the UK, it's almost a car of choice, or it has been, Like, to go to Africa in a Mark II Escort, it's not the first choice.
No, not at all, and I suppose you're right. I had aspired to do it in Course, and then, but if you look back actually over the years, there was a lot of Escorts done over the years, and it's probably only in the more recent rally, probably go back to whatever it was actually around the World Championship. Escorts and cars that got were probably more successful. I think it's probably the more latterly that the Porsches have become successful with a lot of these guys. But truthfully, to build a Porsche, to go and do a safari, the budget is immense. Even to rent a Porsche to go and do it is crazy money. So I'll say, I had wanted to do it, didn't know how I was going to do it, and then all of a sudden the opportunity landed. And truthfully, a brand new safari car, and Andy mentioned Joey that owns the rally, and Joey had a car built for the 23 event, and the car ended up, the car had never been used, went to Kenya, come back, ended up in Toonbridge of all places, with a certain man who sells rally cars. I heard about the car, went down and looked at the car, and then we thought, what about it? An Escort, we know Escorts, we have all the bits. What about it? Sure, it can't be that bad for the event, and as it transpired, it was dead on. It just doesn't have the age of a Porsche or a big Datsuns. But the car was brilliant, So it probably, it's not the ideal car if you want to go out and be uber successful in an event, but to get around and have fun, it's absolutely first class,
For sure. And Davey, whenever this idea first come up and, the conversation was had, was there a lot of thought went into it, or was it get me signed up here straight away?
I don't think, Kevin, that'll be a difficult question to ask. Look, at the end of the day, having rallied for a very, very long time, and competing and getting any opportunity that you can to do absolutely anything, of course you're going to jump at it. So when Keith had mentioned it, we were sort of, right, are you serious? And once it became a reality, of course, jumped at it straight away. Like, if you had said to me 3 years ago, you'll have competed in a safari this time 3 years, and you'll have done and competed and finished and had your result and things like that, I would have looked at you like you were a bit mad in the head. But of course, to get that opportunity, and for an event of that stature, of course, look, anybody with any interest in rallying, to be given that opportunity was, it was a very quick decision straight away. You work on then how you're going to make it work, if you like.
Yeah, like it's not like going to Clerk or something, it's not the...
Exactly. Days, if you like, all the preparation and getting ready for it, and working towards that, and then travel and being away a long time, especially around Christmas, if you like. But no, certainly it was a very, very quick decision and a very quick yes, of course.
Yeah, say yes and regret it later.
Figure that bit out. Yeah.
But like, even the logistics is like nothing probably you've ever done before as well. All that you have to start from day dot again, do you? Or is there a lot of people there to help out?
This was totally unknown to any of us. And like, I would have done a lot of the planning, I suppose, for the RIC events and any of the Tarmac Championship events and those. Okay, there's a lot of planning for that. But when we started this, we had no idea. Like, this is in another part of the world, and so it is. So we reached out to Gary McIlhenny, who's done the event quite a number of times, and we invited Gary down to come and have a bit of a chat with us. We had pulled together the same sort of team that sort of always has ran the cars for us in the past, and kept those guys sort of in the party, if you like. But Gary came down, and we always say, look, there's no thing as a stupid question, and Andy's testament to that, for I tortured him quite a bit. But look, ask him plenty of questions. In theory, it's the same principle. We arrive to arrival control, we start a stage and we finish a stage, and the timing element of it. But you're right, the logistics, and we had worked with Sport before, but we needed to, I suppose, go with people who had previous experience. We probably could have done it all on our own, but it certainly made life a little bit easier, asking all the questions and having people that has done it before, reaching out and gaining as much of that experience as you possibly can, and getting inside people's heads to try and understand what happens where and stuff like that, and have we everything with us, if you like. So nearly we had 2 and 3 of absolutely everything. We could have built probably 2 cars whenever we were out there, but it's just, yes, an immense amount of planning, immense amount of logistics and stuff like that. But look, very lucky that a lot of good people, a lot of very mindful people that were able to make good decisions and stuff like that with us as well.
Yeah, because we are blessed in rallying. Like, anybody that has information are very happy to share it, and are willing to, to share their knowledge, to share their wisdom almost as well.
Oh, look, and to be honest, Gary especially was very, very good. He came down and spoke to us, but he helped me quite a bit, because again, I had been talking to him back and forward, and you get a little bit paranoid, as people are going to look down their nose at you, because you ask him what you feel might be a daft question, but you get straight to the point. You ask the question because you want to know an answer. And as I say, look, I reached out to Andy, even the people within the organising committee of the rally. Very early on, whenever Keith had talked about this, I reached out to them. You were like, is the language going to be a barrier? Just unknown. But to be honest with you, what a great bunch of people, what a great team to be involved with. Made you feel so welcome from the very beginning. And this was only an idea whenever I made the initial conversation with them. But Andy had some online meetings with us prior to the event, ensuring that everything was engaged with us. And it was, come on, get here, come and enjoy the event. And it was, you were being very, 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 very welcome. And to the point that it was very, very focused on making sure everybody had a great experience.
Andy, that must make you feel like very proud, because like you said, you were that bit weary, things get done, but to hear other people say the way that your team there was, encouraging people, getting behind people, come here, you'll love it when you get here. Like that must give you a lift, because it's not only that your ethos is built into this here. Everybody wants this event to be a success. Everybody wants this to be a lifetime experience, I suppose, and maybe not the right word, but a lifetime goal, maybe.
It does, and it's like any rally, Kevin. It's not about who's the COC or whatever. It's about the whole team, and the whole team needs to work hard and work together to deliver it. I'm sure Keith and David will back this up. The Kenyan people are special people. They really are very different, not different people, but they're so happy and welcoming to people coming to their country, and to experience their culture and all that sort of thing. They're fantastic people. They're warm, but like the Irish, they're warm, friendly, and they're happy that people come to their country. And they have the same passion for rallying that Irish people have. But yeah, the team's there. The team works seriously hard. I don't know if 40 emails a day, within the team going on in the run up to the rally. There were some issues around accommodation. There's no getting away from that. Outside of not the team's doing, but hotels, and Kenya's just a different place. How they think and operate is different to how we think and operate. But yeah, no, it's great to get the feedback from David on that, and it's appreciated, and it's not nothing to do with me. It's a team effort, and it's down to the dedication of the people in the team that make that happen. Yeah,
and this type of event as well too. Like, you have to cater from ex-professionals down to guys that's doing this because it's it's a bucket list event almost that they want to do. It's the first time ever competing in a rally, so you have to kind of design a route that will challenge the highest. The professional right down to that beginner. That's a very fine line that you have to work there with as well.
It's a fine line, and there's a serious amount of work went into the road books. Essentially, it's a blind rally, so there's no recce or anything like that, and the road books are almost like a hybrid between a normal road book for a road section and what we call pace notes. So it's all done in road book format, but with more detail in the road book than you would usually have for a road or a liaison section, and those notes had to cater for experienced people like David, and I'm talking about co-drivers now, experienced co-drivers like David, and absolute novices who've never done a rally. When I was on my flight to Mombasa for the rally, there was a lady sitting across the aisle from me. And when I put my coat on to get off the plane, she noticed it had the rally logo. She said, "Oh, you're involved with the rally?" And I said, yeah. Are you going? And she said, "Yeah, I'm going, yeah." I said, "Well, what are you doing?" And she said, "I'm competing." And I went, "Oh, okay. Driving, co-driving?" She says, "No, I'm co-driving." And I automatically say, "Well, have you done the rally before?" She said, No, it's my first time." And I said, "Okay, well, what rallies have you done?" And she said, "No, it's my first time doing any rally." And I thought, "Are you crazy?" and I think they were lying maybe 6th or 7th overall until they rolled, and then they dropped back a bit, but they still finished. And for me, for an absolute novice co-driver to come in and be in the top 6 or top 10 overall proves that the road book worked. Because it did, and there, I've spoken to lots and lots of the co-drivers from the event since. Some of them saying, "Oh, the notes weren't that great. This was wrong, and that was wrong, and this you should have done it this way." But everyone you speak to wants it done a different way.
Because everybody has their own wee quirks.
Everyone has their own way of doing things. Yeah. And someone who felt like a double caution shouldn't even have been a caution. Others were happy that it was a double caution. You have to cater for the whole range, and it is difficult, but for me, safety is the most important part, and I'd rather have something marked as a double caution, even if it isn't quite a double caution, if you understand me. So yeah, it wasn't, but that was the probably in the run up to the rally, that was the biggest stressor, getting the notes ready and getting them right also. Yeah.
And it's a big event. It's well established. There's a team there. Is there an opportunity for you to put your stamp on things?
There kind of was, because before I got involved, I was told that it never ran to schedule, or didn't always run to schedule, and all this sort of stuff. And for me, what I tried to instill was 80 or 90% of the competitors in the event are international crews. They're not local crews. And they all have an expectation of how a rally should run, especially a rally that's of such a scale. And my big emphasis was that we look for stages and roads that we know won't be affected by the weather too much. Obviously, there's you can't control the weather. But the biggest endeavour, the biggest target we had was that every stage runs on time and on schedule, because darkness in Kenya, it's not like home where it gets dark as the year progresses. It gets dark at different times of the day. In Kenya, every day of the year, it gets dark at 6 o'clock. That's it. Dark, and there's no dusk or dawn. It's just dark.
Big thing that even we noticed, from sundown, the darkness is 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Here, the sun goes over their eyes when you have daylight for an hour. There, sun goes over their eyes, dark.
Yeah, bang. There's a comedian, Billy Connolly, once did a joke, and I can't even remember the detail of it, about being in the jungle in Africa and when it's dark, and he just said, "It's fucking dark, it's dark." I said, I can't remember any of the detail, but it sticks in my mind. But the other issue we have is we cannot have competitors out there on stages when it gets dark. We shouldn't have it, because the safety helicopters can't go up, and once darkness comes into play, and you're in the bush and there's all sorts of wildlife out there, it's just not a safe place to be. And for me, the biggest thing that I wanted to instill in the ethos in the team was get every stage ready, let's run it on time. And to be fair, we did. And I think it was the first time ever that every stage ran. It wasn't that every stage started as planned, but none of them were shortened or anything like that. So yeah, that's the ethos, Connor, that I wanted to try to instill, that we need to aim for, because all people like Keith and David make such a massive effort to come and do the rally. The least we can do is try to make 100% sure we give them the full rally.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, and thankfully we, touch wood, we I think we achieved that element of it. So yeah.
Keith, I suppose maybe back to yourself. You mentioned Dansport, who played such a big part in this whole operation as well too. Like, to build a car that's capable of going out to do something like that there, what's the difference in that and an ordinary historic escort that we would see in the likes of, I don't know, the Bushwhacker, a gravel spec car?
Well, I would say first off, Kevin, the safari cars are stronger car. Be more weld and more gussets, so there'll be strengthening parts on it. So the body shells are probably a stronger shell. Secondly, you're allowed things like power steering, as we mentioned. You're allowed better suspension than a historic car in this country. So the terrain's that rough that you couldn't run the rally on the suspension that you'd use here. So you're allowed better suspension. The car is raised up. There's a larger fuel tank in the car, so the bulkhead's further forward into the back seat of an escort. It comes further forward. There's a larger tank. There's a bigger radiator in the car for the cooling. So there's various things. Now, in our case, Dansport didn't even see the car till we got to Africa, because Dansport didn't build the car. The car was a full mill, it was a Viking motorsport car. So we sort of built all the bits and pieces that we needed for spare axles and things. We've done that here locally, and then headed out with the car. So the first time they seen it, and to be honest with you, their support was more logistical. So they employed a guy with a truck. We sent a container out. We put our container in with a workshop on it on the back of a truck. The guy went around the rally with us. So at service halls at night, we had a full workshop there with all our spares and all our bits and pieces and tires and wheels and whatever. So they were more involved with the logistics, and one of their guys came with our guys to make sure, just to show us the lay of the land. They had also a few guys, locals over from there, locals that they have dealt with over the years, and they were able to warn us, look, this stage here is tricky, just watch for this or watch for that, so keep us advised. So, because we ended up on a sort of a 4-car team, there was 2 Datsuns and then lads from England, Bentley Brothers, and a Mark 1 Escort as well. So, and then it's funny because you had Robbie McGurk was along with them, and you had so many people from home. Like, it was surprising when we got there, and there was every corner you were around, there was an Irishman there.
You don't go far without a paddy somewhere, isn't there?
So, it was amazing, it was out there, they're doing their thing, whether it was Gary or whether it was some of the other co-drivers or whoever it was, so it wasn't as if you were out on your own, and everybody was there to help. I think the historic, you mentioned earlier, the historic, or the sort of rally community, but I think historic rally in particular, you have that camaraderie, you have people that, everybody works together. At the end of the day, everybody's out for a bit of fun. Yes, you get competitive, but we're all there to help them. There's no sort of animosity between anybody. It's all there to make sure everybody gets home safe and well and enjoy the time.
There's no hidden agenda. Everybody's out for the one common good. It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of crack. Yes, you want to win, but it's not the be all and end all.
That's right.
Yeah, and then another big thing for you as well too. This wasn't all just about the rallying. There was a charity element involved. You just wanted to go out there and do some good as well.
Well, look, I took this notion, Kevin, that we decided to do the event. I thought, you know what, we're in the fortunate position that where we come from in this part of the world, we maybe take things for granted to a certain degree, and we're to go rallying, with all due respect to anybody that can go rallying and do what we do. We're spending a few quid, and we're not in bread and water, put it that way, And I thought, we're going out to a foreign country, a country not as fortunate as us in a sense, in a material sense, I would say. And I thought, it'd be nice to raise a few pounds and maybe do something when we're out there. So we done that, and we had a really good response between customers, friends, relatives, you name it, and supported our charity. And we ended up I got involved with a guy who we knew locally here, and he had been involved with a charity out in Kenyan, just northeast of Nairobi. And they've set up many years ago like a village, and they have an orphanage, and they have various things there. And they had bored water and boreholes and things. So he said, I met him one day. The one thing I was assured of was, with this guy, I could trust him, that if we raised money and give it to them, that it wouldn't go to the wrong people or to the wrong thing. So he said, look, I'll tell you what, we have another village, we could bore a water hole, bore a hole for water. And it cost £20,000. So as it happens, we raised nearly double that, or we raised over 30, to near £35,000. So they have the whole board, and the village now have water. They were before that travelling maybe 5 miles to get their water, and whether it be donkey or cart, and they were taking their water out of a water hole in this area, because I think it's a fairly arid area. And then the surplus money has went to educate orphans that they have raised as children in the orphanage, and then they now give them further education. And they have been doing this for a long number of years, and have actually people that work back in their medical centres and things that have come up through their orphanage, have got educated and are now doctors with them. So look, I think so very, very, we've done a very small thing in a big bad world, but I think it was worthwhile, and I think it gave us a bit of an incentive going as well to
I had purpose to be. It wasn't just a jolly that had a meaning as well.
And in a sense, Gavin, instead of going out and pilfering somebody's, I don't mean pilfering, but I mean you're going out and you're using their resources to some degree, and you are a tourist to a certain degree, and you're bringing money with you. But it was nice to maybe contribute something back to maybe people that wouldn't normally get, So,
for sure.
I think it worked well for us,
Yeah, for sure. And David, there's a lot of prep goes into the car and getting all the equipment and getting everything loaded up. What goes into the prep of Davy and Keith to go out there? How do you, it's not just a matter of lifting the suit on the Friday evening and the helmet and, a change of boxers and away you go. There's a lot of work obviously goes into all that.
I come up first, but I suppose just whenever you broadcast it, everybody will not see there's two athletes here.
Maybe there's a whole fitness regime. Yeah, and you mentioned about the suits and stuff like that, because one of the big things people were talking about was the temperature. And the rally allowed a dispensation on a safety note that we could sign on a safety that we could run on shorts and t-shirt in the car, simply because of the heat perspective and stuff like that. But look, from a point of view of really getting ready, there wasn't a lot to do. Like as Andy was saying earlier, like we arrived out, you get the road book the day before almost. So it's not that you're going to be sitting and plotting out maps and trying to understand terrain. Can you get information? What's that going to be like? And like the stage is 100 kilometers, 120 kilometers, 130 kilometers. Like, how do you try and understand? And so the character change on the stage was immense. You just had to kind of deal with it. From a point of view of getting ready, look, all of that, we spent a few nights maybe up with the guys in the garage working at the car, because we had to carry a certain element of parts, because on a 100k stage, we pull an arm off, break something, we were trying to carry, I suppose, fast moving parts. So just split the car a few times, do a few things. You do that, I do this. Don't lose that nut. Make sure and don't kick that into the stone. Or, as I was reminded many a time by the boys in the camp, if there's a line about you're changing the wheel, so you tell them to rewind the window down a little bit and say shoe. But no, look, there wasn't much getting. Look, at the end of the day, brand new car. There was a lot of then starting to work on lists. Okay, tires is one element of it, but gearboxes, suspension, axles. We took basically what with us in the container that would have actually built the car 2 or 3 times, because as we were reminded going out, by Gary and others, and even mentioned the Dentleys, like Ed, it was very good. I haven't been out there a few times, and I've spoke to him back and forth. If you think for a minute you might need it, put it in the container.
Right.
Red glass, even trying to think you'll take wings of it, tail lights, headlights. There was just everything that we could think of that we had to try and get through and stuff like that. So not a lot really we could do from a prep point of view, because as I said, the event provides the accommodation for the crews, so that's all taken care of, and the whole agenda for the rally is all very much set out. So it is almost as when the car is there, it's an arrive and drive type thing. So it's certainly different than a lot of other events that we'd all typically we have to do a lot of prep work for. Andy's team to provide you with a lot of information to make this very easy. And if Andy goes back to the novice navigator, I don't know who he's talking about, for the man behind us for 2 days, stuff like that, it does leave that element that you can effectively go and do this with very little experience. Just be prepared for long days and long times up in the car.
And does it take long to learn to read? Because obviously you're going, it's a blind rally, it's such no notes. Does it take long to actually read the road, to learn what's a soft patch of sand, where there might be bedrock, where there might be other rocks, etc.? Is that hard?
We were told, all right, and I'm laughing. Day one, 60%, all right? Drive at 60%, start to learn the rally. We headed off stage one. I was thinking, this is not going to last. This is 95%. Right. So we get a couple of scares, if you like, maybe in the first stage. Or not the stage, just wee moments where you turn around and say, right, hang on, this is not going to last if we stay at this. And just as Andy's saying, so all the detail they would have in the book was trying to understand, okay, they're talking about triple caution, double caution, and, being rallying all these years, whenever you see different types of note format, stuff like that, you turn around and say, okay, what does this actually mean? So then there would have been a big essay. Triple caution, must stay left, stay out, do this, do that. And the time you that right out, you're like, Keith, slow down. It's just and then there was other times, like I made a say 8 kilometers, turn left, and I just counted down in the trip 7, 6, and you just watched everything go past. If you like, but a lot of it, yes, I suppose, Connor, reading the road, massive big holes, like holes you could put a car in places, but big holes, and a lot of dangerous places in the road and washaways and things like that. And I suppose Keith's driving, and I wanted just another set of eyes, because you can almost get like sand blindness, with the brake get off the terrain. It's very maybe hard to see stuff and stuff like that. But look, got away with it. Managed to see everything bar maybe one or two.
And Andy, Tuttles has obviously played a big part in making this rally what it is. Like, for a team to go out there this year with, I think, 22 cars, like, that is mental. From the, it was at 57 starters, like, almost just shy of half the entries. Like, what a team that they can be able to, provide the cars for that, but to make it work as well.
Exactly, Kevin. I was over in Belgium a couple of weeks ago, and I was chatting with Jos Verstappen because he did the rally, and he was just talking about he was part of the Tuthill team, and he was talking about he basically destroyed his car on the Sunday morning, and they rebuilt it for him overnight, and he started again on the Monday. And he just made the point, they brought 22 cars. And obviously he's got a lot of close F1 connections. And I said, yeah, that's a whole F1 grid. And he said, yeah, for 9 days, not for one weekend. It's just bonkers. When you think about it, it's bonkers. And the Tuthill team, I think they've been involved with every classic since it started in 2003. They're very, very loyal to the event. But they've learned a lot. All that experience they've learned on it, and they've acted on it, and they had the winning car then in 25. I don't know how many times they've won it, but yeah, it's a massive operation. It really is. It really is. Logistical nightmare.
It must be like that's it, because there's like one car landing and then another car landing. It's not that there's two cars coming in. Needs and at most times it's not just a quick service and a wipe down and away you go. There's a lot of work to each car every night, isn't there?
They could have 22 cars coming in destroyed every night and needing to be rebuilt, and they only have a set time. Everyone has a 2-hour window at the end of the day, that they have to work within. So yeah, it is, but the event's quite unique as well. It allows servicing between the stages as well on the road sections. There's areas where it's permitted. There's other areas where it's not permitted, but it's pretty relaxed, And so yeah, it's the only rally I've ever clerked, and we've decided not to hit any of it. And it kind of goes with the spirit of the event as well. Keith was chatting there earlier about the spirit. Everyone works together. From an organisational perspective, we didn't have any road penalties on the rally. At the end of day one, we would have needed a calendar to add up all the road penalties for people, especially with the novice navigators and stuff. But that's not what the rally's about. It's about enjoyment and endurance and getting through it, not being penalised, for the sake of issuing penalties. So yeah, it's very, very different to the normal what we call normal rallies. Yeah. But yeah.
But then there is a certain order to it as well, because there's only a certain amount of people allowed to work in the car at a time and all that too, So from that side of the things, there's a good regulation as well too, that there's not 20 people working in the car. I think it's 3 or 4 can work in the car at a time.
Three mechanics, and they have numbered tabards and things like this. Like some of the smaller teams were on bending my ear before the rally to say, look, we're bringing 3 mechanics and we're bringing a team manager as well. Please let the team manager work at the car also. But you have to at times dig your heels in and say no, because if you allow one to do it, all of a sudden 50 other teams can now bring another mechanic and another, and it adds up. It adds to the cost. It adds to the cost of everything, and it adds the resource required and all this sort of stuff. So yeah. But no, it's 3 mechanics, with their number tabards and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
And Keith, before the event, what was the expectation? Was there like an end goal, or was it to get round, or what was the thought process before you ever set foot in Kenya?
Truthfully, Kevin, it was really, we really didn't know, honestly. We didn't know how fast the pace would be, how we would adapt to it. Would we be able to handle the long stages, the durability of that, would we be exhausted, the concentration level? So, actually, it was the unknown to us. It was a bit like Andy mentioned earlier, but him going to look after the rally for the first time, it was unknown. So it's a bit like that going out to do a safari the first time. It was totally unknown, and as David mentioned, we were told, boys, first day 60%, just take it sensible. This is all about, you're asking David earlier about preparing. We were told early on, guys, that the guys that are best prepared, most consistent at this event are the most successful. So we decided, well, you know what, we haven't been there before, but at least let's go forearmed, let's be organised and prepared. So we went with a good car, we went with a good team of lads. We spent hours pulling lists of items, parts together to make sure we had everything. So our expectations were, look, truthfully, I suppose over the years, we've been, we've never been at the real sharp end of maybe the top international rallies, historic rallies, but we were always thereabouts in some of the rallies over the years. Well, we've won a few of the historics in Ireland and whatnot. But I suppose we thought maybe we could get a top 10, and that's what we were told. If you watch yourself and behave, and you're lucky, luck would be a lot to do with it, and if the weather was lucky and a whole lot of things, you might creep into the top 10 at the end of the event. So that was probably our expectations, but we were through the first stage, and we caught a Porsche halfway through the stage, and we come out at the end of the stage, and I think we were sixth overall, and I thought, maybe we need to back off a bit for this. I think it surprised us, but there was a lot of luck involved, and a lot of, as I say, my misspent youth has come in useful as that.
But yes, there's luck obviously, but obviously the prep beforehand all paid off. Like, was there anything then that you couldn't prep for? Was there things through at you that you could never have planned for at all?
Well, we had mechanical issues. Like everybody has mechanical issues, and our biggest mechanical issue on the first day, and this was actually where maybe a bit of good luck, and just a bit of just missed our good fortune. We discovered with the car that the one little problem we had with the car, and it was quite a considerable problem. Every stage we were in, we were bending track rod ends or steering arms. So the wheels were like that coming out of every stage, and to the point where we broke a track rod end on one of the stages. So we were only able to steer in one wheel, and thankfully we were only 3 or 4 miles from the end of the stage. We crept out to the end of the stage. We're seeing what the problem was. So we discovered after about 2 days, we discovered that the track rod ends in the car, the ball joints, the bolt in the ball joint was a straight. It wasn't a tapered bolt, and it was going up through a straight hole in the steering arm. So the boys then started to taper them and sort of remanufacture them and taper them, and that improved the situation. And then by good luck, my wife was coming out to Nairobi halfway through the event for the rest day, and she wanted to come out and see what we're up to and see if we're behaving. And so she came out. So we sent a message home, guys, you be going stuck. We have 2 more escorts at home. And get them into her suitcase. So she was peeking through the airport with a bag of ball joints. And so that was one problem we mentioned earlier in the steering. I think we bent 14 or 15 rims on the event, but by some luck we didn't have a puncture. So whether it was just the compound of the rim that was taking the brunt of it rather than actually breaking the bead on the tire, we don't know. So we didn't have one puncture. Well, when I say we didn't have one puncture, we had got to the end of stages and the tires were going down, but we never had to stop and change a wheel during the stage. So that was lucky, So look, we had all sorts, like everybody, and I'll maybe tell you more later. But like there was 2 days we met zebras on the road. And you're coming up some of these clay roads at speed. And there was one day, and David was talking about being a second set of eyes. If you seen through my eyes, you need more than David. We were up this road as hard as we could go, this fast bit of road, and I could see 4 legs standing away in the distance, and I thought it was 2 men. I said, David, them buggers not going to move out of the way. Maybe not with some nice terms, but as we get closer, we realised there was a zebra standing in the middle of the road, at just at 90 degrees to the road, looking at us. And we were coming at him at, say, 100 miles an hour, and he got right till we got within maybe 20 or 30 meters of him, and then he just took off into the bush, you know. So we had to back away off, and so you know, you were seeing all sorts, you know. It was, well, that was part of it, and we mentioned we met buses, and we met a wee truck, and we met motorbikes regularly, and but the locals were very good. Like they accepted the rallies there. They don't get cross with you. You just get out of your way and let you get on with it, you know. So
yeah, because David, like, that must be that's like, kind of mind blowing that like a zebra and like, that could run anywhere. Like that, you know, as much as you can see it, it could run in front of you. It could run the opposite way.
I wondered why Keith wasn't slowing down because as we get closer, I said, "There's a zebra in the road." There's two buggers and we're glad we moved down the road, but it wasn't until we actually stopped and we didn't get down to second gear and then he headed off. But you're right, we couldn't take the chance to run into the animal. You know, all sorts of problems there or whatever. But that happened to us on a couple of occasions. Thankfully, there was other crews who talked about wildlife that ran across the road in front of them and things like that. We didn't have any of that, thankfully. But meeting the locals, we met a bus at one stage, and I'm looking around because I keep telling that story, and Gary McIvor always appears over my shoulder every time I talk about the bus. And that was a bit of a shocker. I feel like, you know, to turn around and say, hang on a minute, you know, anything is possible here. I feel like.
I'll tell you, there was a part of one of the stages, and they called it Elephant Alley. And now we didn't see an elephant on it, but the elephant dung. So you turned up this road, and it's up through the bush, a fast bit of road. You know, it's probably fourth, fifth gear, fairly fast bit of road, rough, a lot of wee bits of washaway. But because we were novices, we turned up this road, and there was a lot of this in places, and we thought there were boulders in the middle of the road, but it was elephant dung. Not prepared to figure out, you know what, it's only elephant dung, but you get back in the sump yard was full of dung, and you get back to the surface. But I mean, it was everywhere. So genuinely, the elephants, I don't know, must have this. There was a route the elephants took, and there was their remains were everywhere.
They left their mark.
They actually looked like rocks on the road. Yeah.
Big rocks.
They're not small. They're not small, but when you drive over them, they're soft. But you just don't know. You know, you need to know. And Elephant Alley. I know. Anytime I've been through it a few times, and elephants are massive animals, and there's branches, there's bits of trees across the road. They're like literally a bull in a china shop. They just wreck all around them and leave their deposits in the middle of the road as well. So yeah, they do look like rocks and boulders in the road. So yeah, I know where you're coming from, Keith. Yeah.
Ali, what did you call the stage up over the mountain with all the concrete at the corners? What was
Taita Hills?
Yeah, the hills.
Kind of how's that? Yeah, and that Kevin, that was another. You know, the stage has changed in character from one to the next.
Mm-hmm.
It was the stage, and it was hairpin after hairpin up steep hills. We had been warning guys, there's concrete at all the corners, because when you're going up around, you know, obviously because the rain there would wash all the dirt away off the corners, so they had concrete in them all the time. But the rebar was sticking out, all the metal was sticking out from the rebar. So you were actually going up threading your way around, and I mean every corner for, like, and I'm not exaggerating, Andy, probably 100 corners. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, easily. Yeah.
So actually the stage suited us quite well. It was quite challenging, I really enjoyed it. And you get up onto a plateau at the top, and then you start to come back down again through here comes on the other side again. So it was totally, you know, it was totally unexpected because you don't do a recce, you don't have any foresight of what you're coming to. Mm-hmm. You just don't know what's around the next corner, really. You know? For me,
that was probably one of the best stages of the rally. Because of the variety in there, as you say, you've got all these hairpins. It was almost a mixture of like Monte Carlo, Col de Turini, number of hairpins, not the same surface, but And then up over the top, you had some bits of it were probably a bit like Finland. You know, it was fast, and other bits that were a bit like New Zealand. It was just an incredible stage. It was about 60 kilometres, wasn't it? It was about just the most incredible stage. But the concrete, Piers Dyken was winning the rally in the Datsun.
He nipped the shaft.
Up to that point, he nipped the shaft on the concrete, probably getting too much grip on one of the hairpins and just nipped the shaft. You know, put him out, unfortunately. But yeah, a very, very different stage. And to be driving that for the first time with no clue what's coming, it's just it's just bonkers. Like it really is. Yeah.
What the sort of stages you see suited the Escort? And the stages then that didn't suit the Escort were the really fast stages, because we didn't have the legs. And not only didn't have the legs, but probably didn't have the balls. But apart from that, the Escort, when there was on the clay road, you have this camber clay road, and at high speed on the fast bits, the Escort, like my knuckles were raw to holding on, because the Escort was like all over the place.
Yeah.
Whereas horses, and particularly then some of the guys in the big Datsuns, they were like just cruising up them. And we were getting 29-hour more top speed than we were getting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some of the speeds we could see it in the track, and some of the speeds were incredible. And it's something we need to look at for the future, is do something to wind the speeds back a bit, because it's getting so fast. And the more detail that's in the notes, the faster these guys will go.
Yes,
you know?
I could. It's encouraged them to go that bit.
Yeah.
Like, David, like you mentioned about the bus there too. We spoke to Alex Gallissimo, Ken Block's co-driver, at the time after they done it, and it was, Colin McMaster was on with them as well. Colin was out taking photographs for them. And he says, like, he was on a stretch road that they told him was a jump, and he has a photo of the bus going over the jump 20 minutes before the first car arrived, you know. the school bus going down, going over a jump, and like, he's like, oh, I don't know where the car's going to lift on, I don't know. And he says 20 minutes later, bang, Ken Block comes along, 60 foot in the air or whatever, you know. So.
One of the days, I think it was after the rest day, whenever we were up in Amboseli, in the lovely Fesh by Sanley. And from memory, we'd rallied out a stage, done another stage, and we were to rally traverse back through part of the first stage of the morning. And there was a slight delay for some reason, obviously. But it was great, because all the competitors started to get together. We were out in the middle of nowhere, everybody out, all talking rallying. And the start line, we were all sort of had been through the rifle control and queued up at the start line. And this farmer came down the road with 20 cattle down the stage towards us. He was bringing his cattle in, it was his time. And then he ended off, then there was another bunch of cattle. And then the start marshals came out and said, yeah, 5 minutes, first jar. We were all, where's the cattle going? But get into the stage, cattle were gone. Farmer had obviously thought, it was it. We talked earlier about the camaraderie in it, but the Kenyan people alone were so welcoming. Like, part of what we were talking about, about getting prepared. If you get a flat wheel, don't panic. Get out, change the wheel. Don't make a mess. Don't drop a nut. Don't panic. To lose 2 or 3 minutes in this rally, even 10 minutes, is not the end of the world, because the gap, it's hours that the overall finish of the rally is. But from a point of view, if anything happened, look, don't be panicking about it. It's going to be all right. But like we worked. Through the event, as Keith says, we didn't end up with a flat wheel. We got through that. But on those days, from the point of view, if you have a problem and you break down, all right, and we were going prepared, worried about if you get stuck with this, that, and other. But if you break down, don't panic, somebody will come to you. And like, we're out in the middle of the bush, what we would like to believe, kilometres from anywhere. And there'd be 2 Kenyans standing at a tree as you drive past, and you drive the road another 10 kilometres, and there's all 2 Kenyans. But I remember we came out of one of the stages, and we were probably 20 kilometres from going back out onto the main road again. We're still in the gravel, remote area and stuff like that. And we went down the road, helmets off, drink of water, get out, stretch, and this, that, and other. And 20 Kenyans appeared around the car, and we were like, where did they come from? It's almost like they're standing behind trees. Like, just appear from everywhere. They just, and they all were wanting their pictures taken and all this, that, and the other. it just looked something else, a bit surreal.
For sure. And like, even like, to be doing, yes, it's not notes, you're reading them up, so it's maybe not as taxing. But like to be talking that length of time, like, do you, even between at the end of the day, do you really not speak to rest yourself?
David had nothing to do, so he just sat there. He
looking right up.
I don't think he went to sleep.
No maps, road book. And as Andy says, look, I had spoke to people that had done the event before and got copies of road books to see what was I going to be handed effectively the day before. Because the last thing for me is, look, it's a big effort for Keith, a big commitment on his behalf. The last thing I needed to get lost in the first road section or in the first stage. That would be some mess. But in the road book, a lot of detail. But parts of it, we were on a private estate. And I remember we'd only keep it down to like a prairie grassland. And you may know, Andy, what it was, but it was like long hay grass. Turn left at the house. Basically, head. And it was just, right, we think there's tracks down there, go that way. 800 metres, turn left at the big tree. Now you're in a wood. And we'll go back on down. Sure enough, there was this tree bigger than the rest. Turn left. 600 metres, turn around at the T junction. Right, okay, so it's fine. So a lot of it was tricky navigation in places, and you had to really be on top of it, and we're fortunate enough we get away that if we did miss a junction, we picked it up real quick, could turn around back onto the note again or back onto the route and stay with it and stuff like that.
To answer Andy mentioned earlier about the hazards. And I think that actually is one of the big things with the co-driver seat. When you're coming at speed down the road and there's culverts and washerways, and to be honest with you, as Andy confirmed, you're coming down the road and you see this line across the road and you don't know whether it's just a shadow of a tree or whether it's a culvert or a dip in the road. And the problem is, as Andy mentioned earlier, these are all in the road book. And if you hit one of these at the wrong speed, you could end your rally. You could do worse. You could, if you hit a 3 hazard at a high speed, you're going to demolish the car and maybe hurt yourself. So you're actually very, very focused on that type of thing. And actually, David very quickly caught on that as we're coming towards hazards, especially the bigger hazards. David was giving me a countdown, so he was saying 600 metres, 500 metres, 400 metres. So I was getting a sort of a ready reckoner in my head when this thing was coming because you didn't know what was coming.
Yeah.
And we got into a kind of a rhythm with that, and that really helped. And but as Andy said earlier, some people would have been complaining now, well, look, you shouldn't have that hazard. But in our car, for example, we hit some of the culverts across the road at too great a speed and nearly ended on a roof, put the car on its nose. Then we seen a video clip of a 911 Porsche coming out over it, and it just glided out over it. So the notes have to be there, and to be fair to everybody, because there was a guy there in a Citroen Visa.
Visa, yeah.
So to be fair to all competitors, I don't think Andy could be ridiculed for doing the notes the way they were done. I think they were first class. It's how everybody has a right foot on that they can lift off or decide not to, and it's up to you at that point,
For sure. And Andy, even to be making that road book, is it kind of very fluid as well too? Because we've seen in just last couple of weeks, the safari itself, the WRC round, a road can get washed away almost overnight.
It can. Weather's a big challenge. We were fortunate in December where we had, I'm told, one of the driest classics ever. We had the last day, on the last stage, there was rain, but it was nothing compared to what they've had in Kenya. I think from January right through to even today, the rain is relentless. So the roads can change. And the WRC event's held just in one area. By comparison to the Classic, it's quite a small area in and around Naivasha. The Classic Rally runs for a few thousand kilometres. and then up into the hills and into the mountains. And flash floods are a big problem and a big issue, and have affected the rally in the past, where cars have been caught just in a flash flood and washed down through a river and all that sort of stuff. So we're really fortunate, I think, that none of that happened in December. So, but yeah, the rains can totally destroy a road overnight. You know, and we had an advance crew, again, 2 guys from Northern Ireland, Paul McCann and Paul Biggerstaff, two good experienced organisers and competitors. They were out 2 days ahead of the rally, going through every stage, checking the notes, checking the stages, and doing updates and amendments to the road book that we would have given to all the competitors, David and Keith, the night before each leg, so they could update the road book that they were given with any amendments that were caused by weather changes. You know, so yeah. So.
And Andy, what size of a team is there on the ground for the event? Like, you know, how many are you working with?
It would actually surprise you, Connor. It's not massive. There's on the event, on the stages, there's 3 stages every day, so it's quite repetitive. Now, those stages vary in length from 60 kilometres up to 130 kilometres, but it's the same stage commanders, the same timing people, and all that sort of stuff who go every day of the rally. So whoever does the first stage of the rally on day 1, do the first stage on day 2, day 3, 4, 5, etc. So that you get that consistency, and that I would always say to myself, from a Clerk's perspective, if day 1 works, knowing that we had the same team throughout, if day 1 goes well, we're fine for the whole rally. You know, and thankfully, the team did a fantastic job. So in terms of the number of people, probably 50 or 60 and on the event itself. The organising team was probably 10 or 12 people.
Wow.
You know. So yeah, for the size of the event, it's a relatively small team, and it needs to grow, because there were too many people taking on too much, you know, and thankfully it didn't impact on the experience for the competitors on the stages, but there's elements where we need to expand the team, and we are expanding the team. Because this year's event went well, more and more people want to get involved and help, which is good. So yeah.
It's very surprising to hear that, because you just have visions, because of being such a big event from the point of view of the actual size, the road mileage. It's to hear there's such a tight team is quite incredible.
Yeah, no, there are lots in the villages and the towns and villages that the stages pass through. There are lots of marshals and things who are local who help. But once the rally goes through, they're finished, they're done, you know, and all of that. But yeah, if you count all of them, then you're into the hundreds of people. You know? So, yeah. But the core team is probably about 50 to 60 people.
Very tight.
Yeah.
And Keith, you know, when it started to become apparent you were on for a good result, did the approach change at all?
We just kept doing what we were doing.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Truthfully, you know, to be honest with you, as the days passed, you thought, this is gonna come to an end some of these days, so we'll just keep doing. The more we get into it, I think the more comfortable we became. It kind of suited my style of driving. I was enjoying actually the not having the pace notes and not look, you do the biggest issue actually is coming into a rough spot, hitting something at speed like a major pothole. And whenever I say a pothole, albeit there's lots of potholes in this country now too, but potholes there could be, they can be quite severe, and if you hit them wrong, you could do damage. So you thought to yourself, well, we'll just keep going and we'll be cautious to a degree, and if we're lucky, we'll get through. And we really didn't change our approach probably till the very last day. And we thought, right, you know what? We were getting caught. We were in fourth, I think, fourth overall going into the last day. And I think we had we kind of knew we were going to get caught on the last day. And we said, that'll happen here. But we kept doing what we were doing. And the last stage, we definitely backed off, and you're listening to every noise in the car. Is the car going to let us down in this one? And we had a major moment on the penultimate stage, to be honest with you. Like, and this was supposedly backed off. We were on a huge big potential farm, and Andy maybe knows the road, but we came down, and there was the road book said that you take a junction to the left, followed quickly afterwards a junction to the right, and then left again. And what actually was happening, we were taking you around like a large washaway or a culvert.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, you maybe to that point I had backed off a bit, or I had backed off mentally, and I didn't hear a thing. So we went straight on at the junction, and the next thing we were confronted by, all I could call it was like a small river in front of us, and I would say it was maybe 4 or 5 foot deep, and we were coming at it at relative speed. There was no opportunity to get stopped. We were through bush. Next thing, this river opened up, out over the bank of the river, crashed onto the bank on the other side. But miraculously, the car bounced up onto the road on the other side. And we went up the road, and I threw on the handbrake and turned the car around. David says, "Where are you going? We'll have you back through there." Obviously the road had originally at the time in the past had been straight on, the road had been washed away. And we bent the toe lines on some car were bent straight up. Like we had the thing that saved the car actually was the bull bar on the front. On 3 occasions we believe the bull bar saved the car from getting damaged. And just pure luck. And that was only about a mile to the end of the stage, and we thought, oh boy, how lucky were we there? 1 and a bit stage to go, and we were in 4th or 5th place. It could have been game over. So there was a bit of luck,
Yes.
But it's a good story to tell now.
Yeah. And David,
it knocked us definitely for 6 that one night.
Yeah, I thought you were trying to do like a Dukes of Hazzard impression there or something, was it?
That's exactly what it was. It was a Dukes of Hazzard. I don't think David wasn't right. He doesn't look as good in shorts.
He's no dizzy. But David too, like that that concentration for those 9 days, like something like that can happen so easily because your body almost senses it's coming near an end. How do you keep the levels going? How do you keep the thing lifted the whole time?
I think, Kevin, it's ultimately adrenaline, and because it's always this thing whenever you hear the 3, 2, 1, something else kicks in, and you just get on with it and stuff like that. But certainly the last day was a challenge mentally, like leaving the start control out of Park Fermi. Every knock in the car, it was like, is the engine, what if we just get a breakdown now? Because all along the rally, technically you could super rally and back in again and stuff like that, but the breakdown on the last day was just going to be such a disappointment to come that far, and the effort that everybody put into it and stuff like that. And certainly when that happened, it was just like, hang on a minute, and like, we committed in the stage totally delirious. I actually said we should have went right. We went left out of the end of the stage, and up the road. No, hang on a minute. We were completely upside down at that stage. So into the last stage was right. Anywhere there's even a caution in here, right? Get down and triple cautions. First gear. This has got to be, that's really get this home and stuff like that. Because early on in the event, you talk about concentration and how difficult. Some of the stages went very, very, very fast. Okay, you were rallying maybe for an hour and 20 minutes at times, and some of the stages I remember at one point it's a 130 kilometer stage, and we'd been rallying for an eternity. And in your head, right, it's half an hour gone, have to be halfway. Looked at the road book with 98 kilometers still to do, and you kept asking before to go, no, we're all right, we're not just halfway yet, you keep it going, because if I crossed that same thing, he was obviously thinking the same, and you just felt the warnings. But then the next time I looked at it, with 27 kilometers to go, so parts of it just go like a blink. So the concentration and keeping there, it's pure adrenaline. Certainly the last day was just, I said to myself starting the last stage, I'm not looking at the mileage, definitely not looking at the mileage. And I remember looking down, it was 4 kilometers to go. At that stage, the hair stood in the back of my neck, and I was like, we're going to finish this. Even if we have to push this thing over the finish line, we're going to get this car home. And then all of a sudden it was just and finish. And then as you're going up to the stop line, you're going, that's it over.
You could do more. You could do another one. Yeah.
It's not you're right, Andy. You can turn around and say, can we not go out tomorrow again?
This becomes a habit. You know, we do this every day.
Yeah. And can you consider you were doing, like, for one stage you were doing a national rally in Ireland, and like for a day you were doing a WRC event. Like, that is surreal, and you done 9 days of that. Like, it's like it has to take it out of, like, both physically and mentally. Like, you know, the day after, did it hit then? Oh my God, the body started just closing down then.
I was actually going. My wife and I were to go. We were invited to go to where they were going to bore the water hole up north of Nairobi, and I said to her, "I can't go. I'm busted here." So we were down at Mombasa on the ocean, and beautiful hotel and one thing. And I said, you know what? A day's rest was going to be nicer than, you know, because it was a 5-hour journey from Nairobi by car that we had to go, and then 5 hours back again. And I thought, you know what, it was a relief. Well, I'm butting in here on David maybe, but I'm going to tell you there just about the long stages, and maybe David didn't realise this, but you know, whenever you're a 40-year-old at me, you go to this rally and you're thinking about dehydration, so you drink a hell of a water going into the stage. So I was drinking buckets of water, and then we're halfway through the stage. My God, I need to go to the toilet.
It has to go somewhere.
So one of the biggest problems was trying to, you know, you get to my time of life. What are we going to do now? You're going up the road. You're not going to 100 mile an hour. You're thinking, you know, that's myself here. What sort of habit?
You don't put that in the notebook. The notebook, do they?
We don't want some of the holes for this stuff like that. We're taking stuff like that.
Stay away from the rough bits.
You need a tundish and a hose pipe attached to it.
It's the latest modification.
Oh dear.
But David, we've seen the videos, like Holly McRae, to her credit, she'd done an absolutely fantastic job. The way she was able to promote the event on social media, it made it very real, it made it very, like, did you get a lot of feedback then from home? Everybody keeping up to date with what was happening?
Yeah, during the event, stuff like that, the following that we were getting from home was phenomenal. The interest and stuff like that, it was amazing to see that people would have an interest in what I would do and what Keith was doing. To be honest with you, we're very ordinary people, if you like, that have done a bit of rallying, a bit of passion for rallying. As Keith says, we're not venturing to be shouting out the forefront and stuff like that. But it was, and yes, and to have Holly there and her, I suppose, what she does from a media perspective and stuff like that, and to present that, it was really, really good. I thought to lift the profile of the event, because part of my preparation, I must have watched every YouTube video for every Safari Classic rally that's potentially available to try and see, is there any in card, or what is, is there anything that you can watch out for similarities and stuff like that. But for Holly, and then she did a day with us, she was a day with Tuggles, and she's done different things and stuff like that. So it really brought it home. But you're right, the following from home and the messages that that I was getting, and others within the team and stuff like that. Oh, you're there, you're this and that. Keep it going. It was unbelievable to see that support, to be honest with you, and people would get behind it. If you like, it was just unbelievable.
And I think it's credit to her. She came out, and I think she done an excellent job. She actually she makes it she makes it very interesting for people to watch. I think that's a skill in itself, I'm sure.
Yeah, because she has a very natural way with her, doesn't she? She looks like she just wants to get mucked in and gets involved, and not scared to ask the questions, but not scared to as David, you said earlier, ask the silly question, because there is no such as a silly question. It's things that you'd want to ask if you were there yourself.
Yeah, to leave it for very ordinary people. In sport, there's a lot of new people and a lot of youth comes in, and we need youth to come in every year, to keep the sport alive. But even from a point of view of those that have a passion for rallying, people that marshal of events, people that are organising committees for rallying and stuff like that, to see that, you know, ordinary people can go and do, you know, something like that of that stature and stuff like that. It was just, and Holly helped that. You know, she leaves it very, very ordinary, if you like, in a way that is very, you know, straight watch, if you like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because Andy, she brought a different slant and things. She brought it, you know, she had to appeal to the masses. There's no point in shouting into an echo chamber. You know, we've seen that over the last few years. You know, some fantastic coverage, but it's appealing to the same group of people all the time. Holly opens that up and she takes it out to a broader appeal.
Well, that was the whole point of it. I think I said at the start, I didn't know an awful lot about the rally even before I was asked to get involved. And Holly has just opened it up to a whole new audience. And I think David hit the nail on the head. The future of the rally is the younger people getting it into their sphere of knowledge and knowing about it and all that sort of stuff, that they will aspire to do it at some point in their lives, because we'll all move on, we'll all do other things, but if people don't know about the rally, they won't do it. And Holly has done a fantastic job. The numbers, feedback on the social media numbers are off the charts. You know, she really only came on board in September last year, like 2-3 months before the rally, and the numbers are they're off the charts compared to what they were prior to Holly being involved. She's been a fantastic asset to the event, and she's continuing with it. She loved it. John came across with her and helped her and all that sort of stuff. She just brought a whole new element to the rally. Yeah. And it's been fantastic, and long may it continue.
For sure.
Yeah.
And Keith, then, you know, Keith, you talked on earlier about, you know, the one well that's been created, and now, you know, the rest of the money going into education. Though, like, you have left something behind that will be there forever. You know, like that hole, that well will provide that village with water. You know, it must be very gratifying to be done good as well as going out and having your rally and having the crack and everything else. But you have made a difference there as well.
It wasn't really me. Look, we instigated the charity, but it was a team effort, and equally it was all the people that donated and were kind enough to help us out and you know, see the value in what we were doing. And people were very generous, to be honest with you. And I'm not a good person maybe to go out and push and prod at people and say, you need to give me a few pounds, look, I'll give you, you know, if you're doing business with me or whatever. It wasn't that type of thing, but people were very, very generous, and so we have them to thank for it. And it's lovely to see. And I actually do intend at some point I would love to go back out and actually visit the village where it's at and see it, because you know, it's a nice thing to do. And I say it wasn't really my doing it. It was a nice thing actually to tag on, because it generated a wee bit of interest in what we were doing as well, which was nice, and people took a bit of interest in it, you know. And look, it's just back to what Andy's saying there about Holly and whatnot. You know, as I said, the first question you asked me was, you know, what inspired you to go and do the safari rally? Well, you know, I've watched these sorts of events, and like every January, like I sit in the house and I have to watch Dakar. You know, you watch it every night, and you know, and you always think, oh, there'll be something to do, something like this. So it's you know, for us to go and do this, and Holly to do what she's doing, and as David says, to you know, hopefully, you know, the people will say in 10 years' time or in 20 years' time, because we watched the rally, you know, we heard of the safari rally 20, 30, 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. When I was one, that
is going to be at the end of this podcast.
So you watched it the way back whenever you're young, and you always aspired, you know. So look, you know, and you know, hopefully Andy and, you know, Holly and all these people have inspired people to come and do it, you know, and next time or in the future, whenever they can. You know, it's not undoable. It's we have proven a lot of lads from County Tyrone can go and do it. Anybody can do it.
and Keith, you've done the Roger Albert Clark before, you know, for a couple of years. You've done the you can tick the safari box now. So what's next on the bucket list?
Look, to be honest with you, I think now we've got a bit of a bug for this. We're looking at other events. I have a few business commitments at the minute. I'm struggling just to get away to do any rallying just in the foreseeable. But we kind of, I would aspire to maybe do the Silver Ferns. One of the other big ones is the other big one. If you count the Roger Albert, the Safari, and the Silver Fern, it's happening at the end of the year. And I know there's actually a team of guys going out, and I've got a phone call or two of guys looking for what advice would you give travelling to a rally and whatnot. And I say, well, look, I've never been to New Zealand, but I can advise you what happened to us and the things to look out for to do. But and I would love to go. I don't think I'll get this year. To be honest with you, Morocco is another rally I think would maybe like to attempt to do, and actually would suit the Safari car, I'm told. But our car is not actually back from Africa yet. It's still in transit. It's not. It's due back in the next probably 10. It's due into the UK port in probably the next 10 days. So it was hard to commit to do anything until the car was physically back on dry land, and we could say, right, let's go for the next thing. So I see that Andy mentioned some of the FIA historic rounds, and there's some that you would look at. I have a fancy for Acropolis. I don't know why. I do enjoy gravel probably now more than tarmac. I just look and maybe Acropolis again would maybe shoot the Safari car, mightn't be the most competitive car either, but albeit probably mightn't actually qualify because it's not an FIA car. So because Safari is a bit different, so you have to pick and choose. But we still have an FIA Escort, and we're rebuilding, and you never know. We'll watch this space.
And Davey, you're busier now than ever, but there's hardly a weekend goes past that you're not rallying somewhere. Are you still getting the same buzz out of rallying as you've always had?
Not definitely, Kevin, and look, at it for a long time, stuff like that. And I'm very fortunate to get the opportunities to go and do some of the things that I've done with different people over the years. And as I say, look, and even talking to the people, met another fantastic, pile of friends as a result of the Safari. Each night talking to other crew, other drivers, navigators, and stuff like that. And finding out that other events in the world that actually didn't realise existed, and the amount of other large endurance events that are available to do in the world is just unbelievable, if you like. Yes, look, it's getting harder, I suppose, to find time to be away as often, stuff like that. So it's, if not competing, then either spectating or doing something. I have two sons who want to be away most weekends watching a rally somewhere in Ireland and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, but look, it's a pastime, it's a hobby. That's what it is, and it's great to do something maybe can take your mind off other things and stuff like that. But look, it's just getting you to meet other people and other like-minded people that just have just a mad passion for doing a few daft things maybe at times,
Yeah, and as Keith says, I have an idea. Will you be reaching for the suit bag and the helmet bag again?
What's the old adage? Have suit and helmet, will travel. For sure. Look, we've talked about a few things and bits and pieces. And look, if there's an opportunity, look, I'll definitely be standing at the doorstep, almost ready to go.
I might even go back to the Safari.
Yes, Abby's already had that question.
Entries are open, guys. Entries are open.
So, Andy, you're back in the hot seat again now for 2027. Obviously, yes, planning has already started for it.
It has started, Kevin. Yeah, I'm back out there again on Monday for another few days. Yeah, the route team are working away there. It's entries are already open; they're flowing in and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's such a large event. It takes the 2 years to plan it and to get ready. Yeah. So yeah, it's all systems go. Yeah.
And then your another cap you wear then as well, like Ceredigion. The way that event, it's what 4 or 5 events old, and it's already one of the leading contenders in the European Rally Championship. And this year now it's going to be around to the European Historics. From very humble beginnings, it has become one of the go-to events in Europe. It must do your heart good to see that, and obviously the team there as well too.
It is. I think it ran in 19 and then didn't run in 20 or 21 due to COVID. And then I've been clerking it since 22. So I guess my fourth or fifth time clerking it. The success of it is purely down to the team. There's a fantastic team of people there. It's supported by all the businesses in and around Aberystwyth and West Wales. It gets a phenomenal amount of support and all of that. And the residents, obviously. I think it's one of the first times that the same rally has been in the ERC and the European Historic Championship. And the historics are going to bring a whole new element to it, to raise it again in terms of the levels of interest. But yeah, the team on the ground had that rally ready by the end of October for this year. They're just fantastic people. They're just phenomenal, and they just absolutely, they love it. They're almost impatient for it to come around each year. So yeah. And we talk about the number of people involved. We have a core team meeting every 4 weeks, and a wider organising group team meeting every month as well. So every 2 weeks there's a meeting, and it's all online. There's at least 30 people on every meeting. Yeah, it's just. But I keep saying imagine it's the only closed road rally in Wales. Yeah. You imagine if there was just one closed road rally in Ireland, the support that it would get. So it's blessed from that perspective as well, And for me, it's an honour to be clerking it and to be involved with it. It really is. Yeah.
Well, man, all I can say to you at this stage is thank you all very much. It's been an absolutely fascinating chat. And Keith, we're looking forward to your 21st birthday. It has to be coming up now shortly. And we look forward
in the post.
We're looking forward to the next adventures.
Yeah,
Great job. Thank you.
thank you, Gavin. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
So thanks very much there to the three guys, Keith and David. I don't know where you're going to end up at next, but we're really looking forward to hearing it. There's no doubt about that. And for Andy, what can we say? Carry it again. It just keeps going from strength to strength. No doubt 2026 is going to be even more spectacular. And then Safari Classic 2027. If 25 was anything to go by, everybody's going to be in there for a real treat there in 27. So best luck. So thanks again for listening. And if you could please like, share, rate, subscribe. It makes a huge difference. And until next time, take care, speak soon, and bye.
It's the proudest day and the proudest time in the seat of a rally car, because that day and that hour and those minutes, I got the bit between my teeth. I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donald says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett. That's all was said. I can still picture that run. That was just the best run ever.